Here we go.
We begin with two questions, which for me, unfortunately, go hand in hand, as in I'm handcuffed, about trying to defend Joe Burrow against Patrick Mahomes, even though Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. The first question, this is from Earl from Wichita, Kansas. Will the Kansas City Chiefs lose? Seriously? Good question. And second question from Dan from the United Kingdom. Are the Bengals failing Joe Burrow? Okay. Allow me to qualify or disqualify myself on this topic. I'll be honest with you. I don't like Patrick Mahomes, but that's mostly because I love Tom Brady as a quarterback, as you know, and because I do love Joe Burrow as a quarterback, as you know, and it drives me crazy when people try to make the case Mahomes is better than Brady, and it drives me even crazier when people laugh at me for saying Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes, because he is. Guess who, as we speak, is number one in the NFL in my favorite stat, QBR. Joe bleepin' Burrow is number one in QBR. Guess who is tied for worst in the NFL in interceptions with 9 interceptions? The immortal Patrick Mahomes, whose 8 touchdown passes are tied for 16th in the NFL. So right here, right now, the better than Brady, better than Burrow, Patrick Mahomes has thrown only 8 touchdown passes to 9 interceptions. Right here, right now. Not making it up, not exaggerating, not fibbing, not fabricating. 8 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. In passer rating, the quarterback who's already better than Brady ranks 23rd right here, right now in the National Football League. 23rd is Patrick Mahomes in passer rating. Are you kidding me? That is pathetic. Why am I the only one who brings up this glaring truth about Patrick Mahomes? I guess because he's Patrick Mahomes Sweet Homes, a God on earth, untouchable, uncriticizable. But now for the punchline to this sad joke, the punch me in the stomach line to what's turning into my worst NFL nightmare. Joe Burrow's Bengals are 3-5, having lost all 4 of their home games so far this season. 3-5. Burrow's offense, think about this, converted 10 of 13 third downs Sunday at home against the Eagles. That's the best third down conversion percentage in any NFL game so far this season. Yet Joe Burrow's Bengals lost 37-17 because the Bengals defense is 23rd in points allowed and 27th in third down conversions allowed. Oh, the ironic agony for me. The NFL's clutchest third down passer is being undone by a defense that can't stop anybody on third down. And the notoriously cheap Bengals, as you know, they let Joe Mixon go to Houston and Tyler Boyd go to Tennessee and DJ Reader go to Detroit, and T. Higgins has been hurt much of the year. He was out Sunday. And Jamar Chase is not happy because Justin Jefferson and CD got their money and he still has not from those cheap-ass Bengals. And Pro Football Focus ranks the Bengals' offensive line 24th in pass blocking and dead last in run blocking. So the Bengals now have only Joe Burrow, the slickest, most accurate passer in all of football with the best vision, best poise, best touch. It's Joe Burrow or bust, and it's often been bust. 3-5 are the Bengals. All this just aggravates the unholy hell out of me. Patrick Mahomes has been the luckiest quarterback ever. He has it all. He's got the coach, the GM, the owner, the defense, the greatest pass-catching tight end ever. He has everything Joe Burrow doesn't have and so much more than Brady ever did have. Now back to Earl from Wichita. I assume you're a Chiefs fan, Earl. Proud member, Chiefs Kingdom. Way to go. Allow me to be the first to congratulate you, Earl, because despite the fairly pathetic performance of your quarterback so far this year, your 7-0 Chiefs are perfectly positioned to make double history, not just one history, two histories. It's sure starting to feel like you'll be the first team to ever go 17-0 in a regular season, which would get you 2 home playoff games at Arrowhead and all but whisk you right into another Super Bowl. You win that, and you'd become the NFL's first undefeated champion since the 1972 Miami Dolphins. Rest in peace, Mercury Morris. And winning the Super Bowl would, of course, make your Chiefs the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls. Double history. Undefeated, 3 straight history. Lord, have mercy on my soul. Now, the Chiefs do have a November 17th game at Buffalo, but as great as Josh Allen has been, 14 touchdowns to 1 interception, my midseason MVP, I must admit the 6-2 Bills still haven't beaten a team with a winning record. And must point out the Chiefs do have a Christmas Day game at Pittsburgh, but I'm sorry, I'm still not buying Russell Wilson as the savior in Pittsburgh. He still looks a little washed to me, but is getting away with it so far so good. Don't think it'll last. And, of course, the Chiefs do still have 2 games left against their division rival Denver and rookie quarterback Bo Nix. And they do have a home game left against Jim Harbaugh's Chargers, who do have the NFL's #1 defense, along with the quarterback in Justin Herbert. I just never quite trust. I'm sorry, I don't. The Chiefs do have a home game left against Houston, which unfortunately just lost Stephon Diggs, and the Chiefs do have this coming Monday night game against Baker and the Bucs, who of course lost Chris Godwin and almost certainly will be without Mike Evans. Way to go, Chiefs. Congratulations, and congrats to Earl from Wichita. It sure looks like 17-0 to me, seriously, as you ask. And I answer, seriously, 17-0, which just makes my stomach turn. Now, full disclosure, I did have one, let's call it a minor clash with Patrick Mahomes on television on Undisputed, which did make me think a little less of him. This came after his first Super Bowl win. And remember, after that AFC Championship game that got them to the first Super Bowl, I lost my mind on TV about Mahomes' touchdown scramble late in the first half. Do you remember that at Arrowhead? The Chiefs had fallen behind 17-7 to the Titans. And just before half, they'd cut it to 17-14. They had the ball at Tennessee's 27-yard line. Patrick Mahomes dropped back. He eased to his left, looking for a receiver. Then he took off. Now, let me admit this about Patrick Mahomes. He has impressed me with his acceleration. I didn't see that coming at Texas Tech. I think now he weighs around, I'm not sure about this, 240-ish. Big man. And I don't think his top speed scares anybody on defense. He's more of a chuggernaut than a juggernaut. At full speed, he actually lumbers. But Patrick Mahomes can hit top speed incredibly quickly, underrated quickly, deceptively quickly, sneaky quickly. I think it's that shortstop in him from his baseball days. He's obviously very athletic, but on that escape and that rumble against Tennessee, he did hit his top speed very quickly. But I counted 5 missed tackles in 27 yards. Go look at it on YouTube. 5 missed tackles, 27 yards. It was like they were all playing flag football, just reaching half-heartedly for Mahomes' flag. It was like the Titans were just, they were afraid to hit him. Just hit him. Because he's the new untouchable it quarterback. It almost felt like they wanted him to score. And they're all just going through WWE kind of motions just to make it look good. Man, on Undisputed, we must have rerun that play 1,694 times over the next 2 weeks ahead of that Super Bowl, with me getting more and more manic by the replay. And then in that Super Bowl, Chiefs were down 20-10 late third quarter, and Mahomes threw pretty awful interception. Not making any of this up. He threw an interception. They were still down 20-10 early in the fourth quarter when Mahomes managed to throw an even uglier interception. Then still down 20-10, facing third and forever with a pass rusher looming right in his face, Mahomes just heaved one up into the deep left flat, somewhere toward, in the vicinity of, in the area code of Tyreek Hill, who had to come back for the ball and all but wave and fair catch it. My man Richard Sherman, then a 49er, has told me the 49ers defense on that play was a complete bust. That completion saved that game, lucky as it was. Close your eyes, lucky as it was, Patrick. And how lucky was Mahomes that his opponent that night was Jimmy G, who fell apart right on schedule in the fourth quarter. And Jimmy G swung that door wide open for Mahomes to run through it like a flag football quarterback all the way to Super Bowl MVP. So soon after that, Mahomes requested to come on TV with me. And it quickly became clear to me that the main reason was to let me know that despite my criticism of that run against Tennessee and the punt he threw Tyreek, Patrick did win the Super Bowl MVP. Nah. Okay, you got me, Patrick. Congratulations. It was your moment to tell me I was wrong, to gloat, and you got it, and we gave it to you. Congratulations. But Mahomes did not request to join me on TV after he and his Chiefs got destroyed by Brady and the Bucs in the next Super Bowl that they played in. He did not request to join me on TV after he threw for a grand total of 182 yards in the Super Bowl win over the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, who made that one uncharacteristic, unforced error in the first half that turned that game around, as did the punt return in the fourth quarter that had nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes. So I ask you again, how lucky is Mahomes that one of the greatest offensive minds in NFL history traded up to go get him at Texas Tech? Andy Reid has made it his life's work to do everything in his play-calling power to make Patrick Mahomes successful. I didn't see this Mahomes at Texas Tech, and I watched him a lot. I don't think anybody saw it except maybe Andy Reid said, I can do this with that. Brady never had anything close to Andy Reid running his offense. Brady was pretty much his own offensive coordinator. Now, Brady, of course, did have Gronk, but Gronk didn't have the quickness to make himself immediately available the way Travis Kelce does for Mahomes. As I've said many times, it's as if the Chiefs have two Batmen. Kelce is no Robin. He's a Batman. Two Batmen. Kelce thinks like a quarterback. No tight end has ever been able to find and exploit the weakness in a defense, to uncover, to just flat out get open and open and open the way Travis Kelce does. When in doubt, Mahomes just throws it in 87's direction. What a gift from the football gods is Travis Kelce for Patrick Mahomes. How lucky is Mahomes to have him? For that matter, how lucky is Kelce's brother? Quick aside, how lucky is Kelce's brother that Travis is dating her? How many centers without a Super Bowl ring retire and immediately become TV stars on multiple shows? Only one, him. But back to football, back to the history-shattering Chiefs. How incredibly lucky is Mahomes to have a top 5 defense? To have Coach Spags, the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. This season, the Chiefs' defense has been more dominant, of course, than Mahomes' offense. But the Chiefs are only 24th in sacks. So what did GM Brett Veach just do? He traded for a pass rusher, one I've liked since he was at Michigan, Josh Uche, a former second-round pick that Kansas City just stole for a sixth-rounder in 2026. Watch Josh Uche make, 2 or 3 crucial playoff plays. Just watch. And the Chiefs obviously lost Rashee Rice, and Brett Veach just went right out and got DeAndre Hopkins for a conditional 5th-round pick. Pacheco went down. Back came Kareem Hunt. How lucky is Mahomes to have a GM who rivals Howie Roseman in Philly for shrewdest moves? Just how lucky. How lucky is Patrick Mahomes to have Clark Hunt as his owner? I knew Clark's father very well, Lamar Hunt, the late great owner of the Dallas Texans, turned Kansas City Chiefs. Like father, like son. Clark gives that franchise such stability. Congratulations, Earl from Wichita. You are looking at history galore. While I'm left trying to defend Joe Burrow. Would you believe Joe Burrow is 3-2 against Mahomes? He's 3-2. That he beat Mahomes in an AFC Championship game at Arrowhead? He actually did that. I'm not making it up. That he completely outplayed Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead in a game earlier this season? I watched it with my own 2 eyes. Joe Burrow in that game this season at Arrowhead had a QBR of 76. That's scaled 0 to 100. He was a 76 to Patrick Mahomes 25 in that game. 25 for the immortal Patrick Mahomes. But of course, you got me. Bottom line, scoreboard, the Chiefs won 26 to 25. Patrick Mahomes can't lose for winning. Patrick Mahomes is so very lucky. His bad year is on its way to becoming the greatest season any NFL team has ever had. Ever. Okay. The Trevon Diggs incident right after Sunday night's Cowboy game in Santa Clara caught my eye and opened my eyes and flashed me back to all the locker room confrontations I had with so many players and so many coaches and so many general managers and owners and athletic directors. So many battles. Just goes with the territory when you do this the way I do this. But this one obviously was very different because of the times we live in. This time, Trevon Diggs went straight to his locker after the Cowboys had lost 30-24, and he obviously checked his phone. This is within minutes of end of game. I'm just guessing a friend or a family member had texted him what Mike Leslie of WFAA TV in Dallas had tweeted about Trevon, and that the friend or family member had said, "Can you believe what this, said about you?" Either that or maybe a follower on X had posted the tweet on Diggs' timeline, also saying something like, "You going to let this blankety blank get away with this?" Well, Diggs obviously knew who Mike Leslie was, and Diggs had just noticed Mike Leslie waiting in the media scrum outside the locker room. So Trevon Diggs basically said, "F it," and in full uniform walked right back out of the locker room door and confronted Leslie for sounding like he questioned Diggs' effort. This is in the tweet, but Diggs' effort on that long catch and run completion to George Kittle. And as I watched the video of this confrontation, I'm thinking, good God, what if there had been an internet and a Twitter back in my days and press boxes at Dallas Cowboy games from sea to shining sea? The way I tweet, no holds barred, no kid gloves while I type. I see it, I say it. And I remind you, I didn't miss attending and covering a Cowboy home or road game for, I think it was 18 straight years when I was in Dallas. So You can imagine what would have happened if I'd gone straight down to the locker room to interview players after tweeting away up in the press box. World War III would have happened. I might have had to wear a helmet and shoulder pads in the locker room. My tweets would have been potentially instant fighting words for a lot of players I covered over the many years I've done this. Mike Leslie posted the video of the Kittle play, and he did ask a valid question. It was just a question that he sort of threw up into the ether. What is Trevon Diggs doing on this play? It was simple as that. Now, to my eye, Diggs did not give his best, most intense, committed, chase-down effort on the play, though he did stay with it. And he hung in until the bitter end when he did help push Kittle down and out of bounds. So you got to give him that. But as a veteran of locker room battles, I'm going to give Diggs a passing grade for the way he handled himself. I'll give him a B for the way he just comported himself during and then after the confrontation. Diggs said on Micah Parsons' podcast on Monday that he did let his emotions get the best of him. That's a quote. I thought it was at least a form of apology. And I got to tell you, it did take some guts to go confront Mike Leslie while Leslie was standing in the midst of all the other waiting reporters. So remember, Diggs was flying solo here. He left his turf, inside the locker room turf, and he did go one-on media outside the locker room. Give you high marks for that. Guts. Respect. Obviously, Diggs was upset. He was near his breaking point, and he did reach for the age-old bogus argument of you don't play, so you don't know anything, which is not always true. Not in my case. I know a lot. I'll challenge any current former football player on what I tweet about them, what I say about them on this show, on any show. I will challenge them. They can come on here. They can, whatever. I know what I'm talking about. But again, high marks to Trevon Diggs because he didn't get nasty personal. He didn't curse. He didn't challenge Leslie to a fight. I've been there and done that. Didn't fight, but I've been there and heard that. So here's what Diggs said to Leslie.
Took from that? Out of that whole play, that's what you took from that? You don't know football. You can't do nothing that I do. You can't go out there and do nothing. Stay in your lane, buddy. Stop playing with me, bro.
Just asking a question, Trevon. I mean, I'm happy to have you answer the question.
Out of that whole play, that's what you took for that? That's what you got from that whole play, that's what you got from that?
I'm asking you. We can talk about it more. What were you doing then?
Okay, not exactly the ugliest confrontation I've ever seen or been involved in. All in all, Diggs kept it barely in bounds. In my day, the confrontations I experienced usually happened on Wednesday or Thursday in the practice field locker room at the facility. This is after players or coaches had been able to read on Monday what I'd written for the actual news. We used to actually have these things called newspapers you held in your hand. They hit the doorsteps at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. There were no tweets, so there was no instant anger. Then again, if in Sunday's paper, which the Cowboys could read especially at home games, if I had predicted the Cowboys would lose and they won, they often let me have it in the locker room after they had won. But this usually was kind of a team thing, not an individual player lashing back. So I would always stand up for myself. I would defend my pick. But in the end, the scoreboard said I was obviously wrong. You got me. I was wrong. And I could do that fairly good-naturedly, as was most of the abuse I took when I picked against the Cowboys. But hey, those Wednesday, Thursday confrontations in the locker room, they could get ugly. which meant they were usually useless to me because an individual player was defending his honor, his performance in front of a number of his teammates. He was putting on a macho show for them. And there was no room for constructive conversation. Tell me where you think I'm wrong, and I'll tell you exactly why I wrote what I wrote. With teammates watching and profanity and emotions flying, no way for rational give and take between me and said player. Now, what I learned to do over the years, once I had a radio show, then I had a TV show, was to say, hey, join me on air. Let's air this out in public. You can have all the time you want to tell me exactly why I'm wrong, then I will respond. And then you can go back and we'll go back and forth and back and forth. That's what I think very successfully did several times with Terrell Owens, several times with Chad Johnson, one big time with Chris Bosh, back in my Dallas days with Mark Aguirre on radio. You probably won't remember Cowboys first rounder out of Nebraska, Danny Noonan. Big battle with him on radio. It was classic. It was epic. It was instant classic. And I had many radio battles as well as clubhouse battles with Rangers manager Bobby Valentine. Did he and I ever have some shouting matches? But you know what? I found that every time I had it out with a player or a coach or a manager on radio or TV, my relationship with said targets of criticism always improved. These exchanges for me were always ultimately rewarding as we were just able to learn about each other without losing our tempers the way we might do in private. Love those confrontations publicly so that you can watch, maybe pick sides as we went back and forth about why I wrote or said what I wrote or said with said player, coach, manager, whoever. So in locker rooms, I had so many confrontations with players over their performances. Man, just bits here and there with Emmitt Smith, Daryl Johnston, Troy Aikman, Charles Haley, assistant coaches from Gene Stallings to Ernie Stotner, Norv Turner, Butch Davis, and occasionally with Jimmy Johnson. But I've told this story before. I'll tell it quickly again, just to remind you of the scariest confrontation I ever had, speaking of Jimmy Johnson, was actually in the Jimmy Jerry third season, the 1991 season, when they were already breaking through and shocking the NFL world. And they did make the playoffs that year. You longtime hardcore fans will remember. And that team, without Troy at quarterback, he had sprained his knee, with Steve Berline at quarterback, they went to Chicago and beat Mike Ditka's Bears, Jim Harbaugh at quarterback. It was a stunner. And then they had to go play Detroit at Detroit when everybody thought, they got to deal with Barry Sanders. And it was actually Eric Kramer. You probably don't even remember Eric Kramer. The immortal Eric Kramer threw a party on the Dallas Cowboys. They lost 38-6 that day. As fate would have it, I was going to hitch a ride on the team plane home. It just fit into my schedule. They said, we have an open seat. You're welcome. And I was typing my column about that debacle as we flew back to Dallas. And maybe an hour into the flight, we're up and running. I'm deep into my writing. And all of a sudden, somebody in the back gets on the PA system, it was a player, and says, Skip Bayless, you are wanted in the back of the plane. I look around, I'm in the media section there, I don't know, 8 or 10 media people there, maybe 20. And everybody looked at me and said, no, don't go. It's too crazy back there. Those Cowboys were known to take a little something on the flight to make them feel better, especially after a loss. They were literally flying high at that point. But I never duck confrontations. I never shy away. And I just said, no, I'm going back there. So I went back into the belly of the beast. I walked all the way through the players section, which was the coach section, all the way to the back, where I found Mark Tuinei waiting for me. Mark Tuinei, out of UCLA, was a former defensive tackle who had beefed up with the athletic ability that he had to 300 plus pounds to become one of the best left tackles in the business, a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, Troy Aikman's blindside protector, and he was about to protect Troy one more time, even though the season was over and we were standing near the bathroom. I was actually up against the bathroom door in the back of the team plane. And Mark began to question me about why I hadn't supported Troy harder through a rough period for the football team. Well, Troy was out for whatever it was, 4 weeks. And yet, even though Troy was healthy enough to play actually at Chicago and definitely at Detroit, Steve Berline was on fire. This team had ignited around Steve Berline, who was more of a veteran quarterback than Troy was at that point. I'd gotten to know Steve. I like Steve. I like Troy. But Steve was the flavor of the month in Dallas, Texas. Trust me. And yeah, I had jumped on his bandwagon because it was rolling way ahead of schedule. Out of nowhere, the Dallas Cowboys had won a playoff game with Steve Berline at quarterback in Chicago against Ditka and Jim Harbaugh. Well, what was I supposed to do? Jimmy Johnson himself said, no, I'm sticking with Steve Berline for the next playoff game, which was that playoff game in Detroit. And Tuinei didn't seem exactly in his right mind. I'd heard many stories about Wednesday off nights, training camp in Thousand Oaks, California. Some things that players had seen Mark do in bars. He was a bad you-know-what, and he was in a bad mood about why I had jumped on Steve Berline's bandwagon. I said, Mark, your coach jumped on his bandwagon. Your coach is the one who played him. I didn't play him. I know Troy was available, but I didn't play him. Troy got in late, and he got thrown into garbage time, which I thought was way beneath Troy's dignity, but that's what happened. It was a disaster on all fronts. Let's start over. Let's take two. And you know what was about to happen the next year with Troy at quarterback. They were about to go break through and win the Super Bowl. But the point was, I'm losing this confrontation because it's not rational. And now a whole bunch of players have gathered around because they're all afraid of Mark Tuinei. Even Troy was there watching this take place, but nobody had the guts to step in and say, Mark, that's enough. And I wasn't sure where this one was going to go because I was going to lose this one because it started to feel like it was getting physical because Mark Tuinei began to push my shoulders against the bathroom door behind me. Boom, 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 as he made his points. And he's got that look in his eye where I'm thinking, is he just going to bust me in the mouth? Highly capable. And what am I going to do about that? This is in my hardcore running days. I don't know what I weighed, 155 pounds, 5, 10, 11, whatever. I got no chance against that guy in this situation. This is going nowhere fast. And all of a sudden, the blue sea parts, speaking of Dallas Cowboys metallic blue, and I see Jimmy Johnson, who's come all the way from first class to the rear of the plane because somebody has tipped him off that something really bad is about to go down in the back of the plane. And Jimmy is furious with everybody, including me. And Jimmy points to every single player, starting with Mark Tuinei. You go sit down, and you go sit down, and you sit down. And then he turns to me and he says, and you get the hell back to your seat. Well, Jimmy Johnson might have saved my life because that was the closest I ever got to a truly physical confrontation with Mark Tuinei. Whew. Glad I didn't have Twitter then. Okay, bear with me on this. This is about white people. Well, It's actually about white basketball players, more specifically, American white basketball players, with one final qualification. This is about white American basketball centers, as in bigs, as in fives, as in what I used to say back in the day on ESPN, and what I'm saying now about the amazing Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren is shattering the mold of the white stiff. I've always been very publicly honest about what, for a long time, I thought of taking American white centers in the lottery, first 13 picks, which was don't, just don't. Yep, there had been a Bill Walton, just all time. There had been a Dave Cowens in Boston, very good. There'd been a Chris Kaman, even a Brooke Lopez. They've had their moments. But there have been so many other American white centers who were drafted way too high only because they were 7 feet or taller. The Mokeskis and the Drylings and the Nevitts and the Konkaks and the Ostertags and the Chris Mims. There was even a Shinsis. I could go on. But for me, a huge NBA fan that I am, this hit the fan just before the 2012 draft. This was soon after LeBron won his first ring. Player in question was 7'1" Illinois center Myers Leonard, who was being projected to go late lottery. And on first take, I said, no way. I'd seen enough of Myers Leonard in college basketball, and I said on TV that I'm always a little leery of American centers going in the lottery, American white centers going in the lottery, not foreign-born centers. They often have a much higher skill set, skill level, often come from tough backgrounds with a tough background edge. From Arvydas Sabonis to now Nikola Jokic, the Euro centers have consistently proven to be worth high picks. But Myers Leonard, no. But of course, my mere mention of white on TV sent the bloggers into tizzy fits. You can't say that on TV. Was I being racist? Was I being reverse racist? How about I was being right? How about I was just being honest? But of course, I got a call from ESPN PR. The PR woman was very upset with me, and she asked, why did you have to bring up race? And I explained how over the previous, 20 or so years, white American centers had been bad lottery bets. I gave her the facts. She said, well, you could have made that point without bringing up race. I said, no, in this case, race is the point. And after all, I am white, so it wasn't like I was a white commentator ripping black American centers. No, this was, so to speak, white on white crime. Maybe for some white people, that was their problem with what I was saying. So, guess what the Portland Trailblazers did? They took Myers Leonard with the 11th overall pick. Myers Leonard did last 10 NBA seasons, but for his career, he averaged 6 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1/3 of a block a game. 1/3 of a block per game. Now, I will give him this. He was only 1 of 12 from 3 in college, so I never thought about him shooting threes, but as his career wore on, he did turn himself into a pretty good three-point shooter, wound up shooting 39% from 3 for his career. So he hung on for 10 years as a stretch 5, which was the new thing, a three-point shooting 7'1" center who couldn't block shots. Great. That's what you got for the 11th pick in the draft? No. No. And by the way, who went just 11 slots higher with the first overall pick? One Anthony Davis. who has averaged, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks a game for his career. AD, of course, 9-time All-Star. AD, of course, has led the NBA in blocks 3 times. From 1 to 11, that's what happened. So it was a couple of years ago. I started watching high school clips of this Holmgren kid up in Minneapolis, and I immediately said, wait a second, this was different. Now, maybe his dad was your basic white stiff when he was a 7-foot college center at Minnesota, though he did play college basketball, but Chet sure wasn't any stiff. Yeah, I give you this. He was scary skinny, but his feet weren't stuck in mud. He could move. He could run. He could quick jump. And could he ever stroke textbook threes with a shooter's touch and perfect shooter's mechanics? And I said, hey, give me one of those. Here was a 7-foot white American center who could be an NBA star, not just a starter, a star, maybe not a superstar, but a player capable of, making a couple of all-star teams. Last year, Chet's rookie year, he was hurt the first year. Last year, he averaged 17 and 8 and finished second to Victor Wembanyama in NBA blocks, though Wemby ran away from him. But what did Sam Presti, the OKC GM, do soon after that? He went out and got a bodyguard for Chet. He got him an enforcer. He signed Isaiah Hartenstein, who fractured his hand in a preseason game and who will miss the first 6 or so weeks of the season. So I turned on last Thursday night's Thunder at Nuggets game thinking, this is going to be a long night for Chet Holmgren. I figured Joker would pretty much bully Beanpole Chet, and was I ever wrong? Chet destroyed Joker, dominated Joker. Chet went for 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks. 3 of them on Joker. Joker did have a triple-double, but with only 16 points and a single block. The Thunder won at Denver on opening night by 15. Whew! Chet just looked different. From last year to this year, it just looked different. No bodyguard, no enforcer, and he still looked different. He was so assertive, so aggressive, so shockingly sure of himself and his ability to impose his will on Joker and the Nuggets. It was very clear that Chet was on a mission to send a message. Kaboom! This kid has edge. This kid is not afraid. This kid is hungry. This kid will battle. You will never, ever see Chet and stiff in the same sentence. Never, ever. There's nothing nerdy or geeky about him. Kid's got some swagger. He and Shea Gilgeous were chosen to do that national TV commercial for AT&T, What a Pro Wants. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Hey, here's one white American, 7-foot center who just might turn out to be even better than I thought he'd be. Through 3 games, Chet's averaging 24 and 13 with 4 blocks a game, which has been leading the NBA. I picked the Thunder, as you know, to win the West. I'm loving my pick. I know it's early, but do I ever love watching this team play basketball together, win together, do post-game on-the-floor TV interviews together. March Madness comes to the NBA starting in October. And now I am sure somebody out there will accuse me of being racist for liking Chet Holmgren too much, and Caitlin Clark too much, and Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect and Cooper Flagg too much. Hate away. Okay, this is Angel or maybe Angel from Oxnard, California, asking, is Kawhi officially the worst superstar to ever exist? The what? I'm sorry, I don't understand this question. I don't understand this narrative. I'll admit, I did have my issue with Kawhi when he quit on my Spurs, the team I loved. Though I must admit, as I look back on it, I was probably too hard on Kahwi Leonard at that point. Kawhi did not trust the Spurs medical staff. He wanted to bring in doctors and trainers he knew and that he trusted, and Greg Popovich, who can be a tyrant, cold-shouldered all of Kawhi's people, which alienated Kawhi, who finally decided he just wanted out from under the iron fist that Pop ruled with and still does. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Pop is Belichick. He's exactly like Belichick. For years, Pop got away with being an old-school, hard-ass coach because he had the ultimate locker room buffer, one of the greatest leaders in sports history, Tim Duncan, who kept telling teammates, just grin and bear it because we're going to win a lot of games. Belichick had Brady. Pop had TD, as in Timmy, as in Duncan. Pop once said, the day Timmy walks out that door, I'll be right behind him. Well, Tim Duncan walked out that door 8 years ago, and of course, Pop has no plans to retire. Yet, he has not resembled a GOAT coach since Tim Duncan left, just the way Brady left Belichick, and Belichick got exposed for those last 3 years in New England. I still believe that Tim Duncan, if he'd still been a Spur at that point, would have mediated and solved Pop versus Kawhi, and that Kawhi would have stayed for the duration in San Antonio. But I do know this about Kawhi. He's his own man. Kawhi's pride is as ample as his character. So once Pop went to war with him, Kawhi said, okay, I'm out. And he did quit on the Spurs I loved. He said he had some kind of thigh issue that ended his season. Tony Parker eventually called Kawhi out because Tony was coming off a ruptured quadriceps or thigh muscle. And Tony Parker told the media his injury was 100 times worse than Kawhi's, which it was. So that's when I started refusing to call Kawhi by his name. I only used his number, which was number 2. At that point, he was the equivalent of number 2 to me, as in what I talked about on last week's show, my colonoscopy. That kind of number 2 was Kawhi to me. And as you know, number 2 managed to lay over in Toronto and win an NBA championship in Toronto while he was waiting to go on to LA. But Kawhi then won me back over when he and his chief advisor, Uncle Dennis, led LeBron and his people to believe Kawhi was signing with the Lakers. Everybody was reporting Kawhi's going to LA to be with LeBron. I fell out of my chair the night he signed with the Clippers. And not because we were in the midst of a pretty big earthquake out here in LA, but did Kawhi ever pull one over on the king? Did he ever knock the king out of his chair? But back to the worst superstar ever question. You mean because Kawhi's always hurt? When it comes to Kawhi's knees, I believe they've been bad and that they will get slowly but surely worse. I do know several Clippers insiders, and I can tell you for a fact that Kawhi's knees are basically a mess. You can also take this to your bank, though. Trust me on this. Nobody works harder on his fitness than Kahwi Leonard. Not LeBron, not nobody. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't post about it. He just does it. He stays in supreme shape. His knees are just arthritic messes that have both undergone too many surgeries. One of those surgeries done very poorly. So in this way, Kawhi reminds me of Tua. As I've said, Tua he just wasn't born with the kind of body made to withstand even a college football beating. Had a reported 5 surgeries at Alabama, not to mention the start of all these concussion issues that continue to plague him in pro football. Kawhi's body is what the 1970s Cowboys I covered called brittle. He's tightly wound. He too often pulls this or pulls that. But his knees just weren't made for the pounding of an 82-game NBA schedule. He's the NBA's Tua, or maybe Tua's the NFL's Kawhi. Which brings me to the single most amazing aspect of LeBron James' career. He has never had a single surgery in 22 years of playing high contact, high flying NBA basketball. Not a single surgery. All those thunder dunks, all those midair and one collisions with other giant human beings. What's LeBron, 6'9", 260-ish? Not one knee surgery. Not even a knee cleanup scope procedure that I'm aware of. Nothing ever reported. No shoulder surgery. No Achilles reattachment. The biggest reason he's the NBA's all-time leading scorer, even beyond his obvious ability, is his durability. It is all-time, all-time, all-time. Never seen anything like it. LeBron has been so blessed. Now, he does have arthritic ankles that plague him, but they incredibly don't stop him. He needs to rest here or there, but he can play through and play on those sore ankles. Still looks as explosive as he did when he was 25 as he goes on 40. Kawhi has not been blessed, not when it comes to his basketball health. Yet last season, when he was reasonably healthy, this is last season, he averaged 25 and 7. Man can still play at a star level, take over games, though he's obviously not the lockdown defender he used to be, the superstar defender he used to be now that he's 33 years of age. But when I ask people who know Kawhi if he really wants to play, they say he'll try anything to get better, including an occasional risky experimental treatment on said knees. Does that qualify him as the worst superstar to ever exist? Look, I get it. If you're a Clippers fanatic, what a beautiful new building they have. I completely understand that you hate that Kawhi's not able to play right now yet again. But I truly don't believe he's in the business of stealing money from Steve Ballmer. I just don't see how you can condemn Kahwi Leonard for having knees that have deteriorated. Now, look, if you want to question Kawhi's pain threshold, his pain tolerance, you can question away because I don't know. That's the one medical issue I do not have an answer for. As a journalist, I always said I wished I had a machine. I wish one could be invented that would allow me for just 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds, to feel the pain a star was feeling at that moment so I could say, oh, come on, that's nothing. Or I could say, my God, how is he playing on that? But no. Despite our medical advancements, we don't have that. So there's no way for me to know whether Kawhi's a warrior or a weenie. I do know this about knees. I've had 3 knee surgeries, scopes, arthroscopic surgeries. When your knee is bad because you have a cartilage tear that's catching in the mechanism of your knee, or if you've lost too much of your cartilage, your cushion that keeps bone from rubbing against bone, or if you do have a torn knee ligament that holds it in place, you just can't run. You definitely cannot play any kind of basketball, especially NBA basketball. I do think Kawhi will try to play in another, I don't know, a month or so. And I think when he does play, he'll play at a high level. I know people close to him who think this could be a really good year for him once he gets completely healthy and confident in his right knee. How long will he last after that? I have no idea. But I don't love his chances. He just no longer has NBA knees. But once upon a time, this man was a 2-time Finals MVP. He was a 6-time All-Star. He was the best two-way player in basketball. And we're asking, was he the worst ever? How? Why? I'm sorry, I don't get it. I now feel sorry for Kawhi Leonard, whose knees have turned into number 2. This is from YouTube, from Jerry W2460, who asks, Skip, you have any other colored shirts? Touche. I do, Jerry. I have lots and lots of blue shirts, ensembles. Blue's my favorite color. But in my first year on Cold Pizza back in 2004, had a makeup artist that I liked, trusted, who told me, my power color is black. Never thought of this, but she said, your power color is black. She said, you look best in black. That hit home because I always felt best in black. I felt strongest, felt dominant, felt invincible. You play how you feel. You perform how you feel. So anything on camera, I'm wearing black. This is Steve from Simpsonville, South Carolina. Why do you not switch it up a little bit each day for your meals? I mean, I get eating healthy, but it doesn't have to be turkey, broccoli, rice every single day. Steve, you are absolutely right. I do like sushi. Just for the record, every Tuesday and Wednesday, I do have salmon, broccoli, and rice for lunch. Ernestine and I go to Beverly Hills to Nate and Al's, Nosh, to have egg white omelets. I do like my bagels. Thousands and thousands and thousands of ways to eat healthy. The keys are what you don't eat. No red meat, no cheese, no whole milk, nothing fried. Try to keep your sugar to a minimum and beware of too much natural sugar in fruit, fructose. But here's the point about me. From my heart, I love what I eat every single meal. I love my turkey, broccoli, black beans, and brown rice. Some meals I'll have some corn and red and green peppers thrown in for taste. But for me, my meals aren't a sentence, a sacrifice, a gotta stay fit punishment. Nope, they're a privilege, a joy, a reward. My taste buds have been retrained to like what I eat, to savor the taste. Just me, I don't like the taste of coffee or beer or hard liquor, but obviously billions of people obviously do, and that's cool with me. Then again, I'm not sure you're born with an instant affinity for the, to me, bitter taste of coffee or beer. Little kids don't like that taste. I think you have to train your taste buds and your psyche to love them, savor them. And I certainly have no problem with the billions and billions who do love them as long as it's in moderation, like everything else you put in your body. But Steve, believe me, trust me on this. I am very happy with what I eat. I'm hungry as we speak and looking forward to what I'm about to eat. And finally, from YouTube, this is at BlazersPip33. How is Diet Dew the nectar of the gods with zero sugar? Okay, that's a great question. It's a funny question. It's the perfect question coming off what I just said. I always say Diet Dew is my one vice, just one bottle a day, because I admit it, I love the lemon lime taste, the carbonated bite, the caffeine kick. Maybe your taste buds don't love it. Maybe yours requires some sugar, just a little sugary taste, which is fine with me as long as you don't guzzle Dew by the gallon. But for me and my taste buds, Diet Mountain Dew is the nectar of the gods, the breakfast of champions. To your health. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing, to Ernestine for overseeing, and to Hazel for approving.